Hi, I'm Jodi Friedman with Intentional Healings. I was here for a while, I left for about a month, and I came back with some really exciting guests this time. So this week, and my show's going to be on once a month now, but I have my breathwork teachers, my special auspicious friends and teachers, Miss Sandra Ray, the mother of breathwork, the author of 23 spiritual books, and her lovely husband, Marcus Ray, who's the mother of breathwork, an author and poet, and he's also written Ode to the Divine Mother. I have his book here. This is a beautiful poetry book that I'm just getting into. I have a couple books here, Spiritual Intimacy, that they've written on loving relationships. They're the dynamo couple, power couple from Washington, D.C. now. I know you've just recently moved there.
Right.
And then another book that I just love is I've taken the class on liberation breathing. And all these books are of such a high vibrations and so easy to read for everybody who's interested in spiritual concepts, different things that help people demystify spiritualism and turn it into practical everyday use, which is what I love. And so we were just here this weekend in Las Vegas. Sandra and Marcus flew out. Were you in Washington when you came in?
Came in from Florida.
From Florida, because they travel all over the world doing these trainings. And they did a new one. It's the second time you've done the Miracle Consciousness training. And I got to be a volunteer staffer and also act as a student with them. I'm always learning from them because I followed them to Bali and Glastonbury within the last year and done 2 loving relationship trainings. So I'm a diehard of the two of you. I can never get enough.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you. I'm so honored that you're both here. And
thank you, Jodi.
Thank you, Jodi.
Thank you.
we were really lucky to bring you to Las Vegas, and we had a huge class. We had about 30 people in the class, and there were a lot of miracles that happened. So why don't you start telling us a little bit about whatever you want to share about your Miracle Consciousness class.
Okay, well, it is my favorite class to teach because it's very spiritual and it's very deep, but it's also fun. You know, I think spirituality should be fun. And I get really high doing it because I get to talk about my Guru Babaji and Jesus and the Course in Miracles and the Divine Mother, and those are very high subjects, so I get very high doing it. And Marcus also painted a beautiful painting of Jesus this weekend. Which is for sale if anybody's interested. Right, and so at the end of each day we do liberation breathing. The whole group lies down and breathes together, and that was really fantastic. Everybody did so great. And we had a miracle that his sister came out from Kansas to do the training with us, and they had miracle healings with each other, and so I'm really happy about the result.
That's great.
What would you say, Marcus?
Well, I think most people go through life and they have relationships that are somewhat unresolved. So I think the biggest miracle in this training is that we teach people that forgiveness is really the key to happiness, and that we allow people the space to kind of review their mind and their heart and find those relationships in their life that have not been going so well, and to apply this principle of forgiveness, which in our book is taking responsibility, getting out of blame and taking 100% responsibility for all the relationships and all the events that are happening in your life, and applying the forgiveness and seeing the beauty of the transformation that comes after that. So for me, having my sister there and resolving some issues that we had from our past was the real miracle, and she came of her own volition. We didn't twist any arms here, and it was a real surprise for her to show up and take our training.
Right.
So for me, that was a huge miracle. And forgiveness is something that we teach and we stress, and we teach this book called A Course in Miracles, and it's from the Christ mind, and he very much emphasizes that forgiveness is at the heart of any inner transformation work that you're going to do on yourself or others.
Well, I've been totally impressed with you, Marcus, about how you can, you know, we're talking about a topic, anything, and then all of a sudden you come up and you cite, you know, which lesson it is in the Course in Miracles. It's so fabulous, and you can say what it is, and I love that the lesson itself, you described this weekend, that it's an iambic pentameter, and it's 10 syllables, some of them are 20, some of them are 30, but it's so beautifully written. I went through the first 40 or 50. I haven't had the discipline that you have yet to be able to go through. I know, how many times have you read the Course in Miracles?
4 years.
4, and it's 365 lessons, so there's one for each day, and each one has exercises that go with it, and it's so full, and I can see by how highly elevated you are that you've read this book, and it's just incredible. And I've gotten, some of the training has been similar, and yet every time I go to your trainings, what I receive is on such a deep level. It just peels back the layers and allows you to heal on the inside even deeper from where you were. Because I just started following you a year and a half ago, and look at the changes in my life since
thank you.
then. I was selling real estate when I first met you.
That's right.
And now I get paid for somebody else to sell it for me, so it's pretty wonderful.
That's cool.
Yeah, when
I
you
like
change
that.
your career and you can pursue what you love, that's what you teach.
Definitely.
And could you both of you talk a little bit more about forgiveness? Because I really felt that your courses are filled with that. That's what I found so beautiful. I found myself forgiving over and over, not only myself, but others in my life that I had blamed who really weren't to blame. It was just a projection. So what can you share about forgiveness?
Well, you know, we always give everyone the forgiveness test, and that is, what number would you give your mother, for example, 0 to 10? 10 is total complete forgiveness, 0 is none, 5 is half, and traditionally people get very low scores on their parents, and you'd be surprised, and we have to keep telling them to go up the scale, then they get up to 8, maybe they get up to 9, and they just can't go to 10, and then I tell them, the Course in Miracles says, if you're not at 10 or 100%, you haven't forgiven at all. So 8
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
really
amazing.
count. And so I'm always pushing people to go to 100%, pushing them, and because, you know, what you don't forgive, you attract in your relationships. And also who you don't forgive, you're stuck with them by aka cords, they call them in Hawaii, psychic attachments. If you're angry at somebody, then you have like a aka cord psychic attachment to them, and you become like them. So
because they're feeding their energy through these cords, right?
Right. And you, even though you may not want to be like them, you start becoming like them. So those are 2 important reasons to forgive right there. And then, as Marcus said, forgiveness is the key to happiness. So we're trying to get people to, our purpose is to get people in constant joy. That's what we want. And so they have to go through this, forgiving everybody, father, mother, siblings, exes, everybody.
And self.
And that's right.
And
Thank you. And a
self.
lot of people
Self
get
probably the most important.
low scores on self, don't they, Marcus?
Right.
Yeah, they'll
And
give everybody else maybe higher scores, but then they're...
Yeah. And I think what people don't realize is that if there's unforgiveness in your life, there's still some level of anger in your life, and you can't truly be in a state of constant joy, which is what we are trying to get people into when you have anger, resentment, blame, unforgiveness from your past. So part of it is we're trying to kind of clean the mind and bring the mind to more of an empty state where you don't have all these grievances and attacks and angers going on. And partly we feel that's what people need to be liberated from. And that's why we call our work liberation breathing. We're trying to liberate people from their past. We're trying to liberate people from their judgments. And ultimately, we're trying to liberate people from the misery they're in when they find themselves in these situations with people where they're angry and blaming and feeling like a victim. So we try to de-victimize the process. You know, and I had a teacher who said once, did you ever notice that when there's a problem you're having with someone, you are there? So what that means
can't
is
hide.
you're connected to that issue, And you have as much a responsibility to clean that up as the other person that you're blaming. So we try to get people out of the blame into responsibility, and then when they employ or they practice the forgiveness, it cleans up their mind and their life, and then miracles start to happen.
Well, it reminds me of one of the times I was at the last, not your last Bali trip, but the one before that, because you just came back from Bali, right? So the year before, in 2017, I remember being up at the tour, and we were inside that area of the tour, and there were so many of us that there were people that gathered around us, and we put one person, one beautiful woman who needed a serious healing in the center, and she was working on forgiveness. And remember the squirrel up in the
You're
corner?
talking about Glastonbury.
Oh,
Yeah.
Glastonbury. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I did say Bali.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're
thank you.
talking-
You're talking about Glastonbury.
Thank you. Yeah, and how the forgiveness prayer and all the beautiful, everything I've noticed around you is that the vibration, it's impenetrable. It's just so beautiful by how you set the room and you set the space, and then it's a very safe space for whoever comes and works with you.
Thank
And that's
you.
why I keep following you and keep following you. And should I share my
Yes,
miracle?
yes, you
One of the
should.
many that I had this weekend. It was a big one for me, and I wasn't expecting it, and it caught me off guard. Well, you've been telling me that you would love it for me. You see in me to go with you to India. You've been telling me that for 2 years now. And so I've been holding off because there's this beautiful cave up there, and I've seen some of my friends who've gone up and they've shaved their heads. And so I was thinking, the reason for doing that is to get rid of all the attachments, and I do have a real attachment to my hair. And so I've been putting it off, but while I was there at the training, there was a 9-minute slideshow of Babaji, who is this incredible master who's materialized to you and spoken to you, and I am beginning to have a personal relationship with this master. And as I'm watching it on the screen, his face is saying, "You have no more excuses. It's your time."
It's your time.
So the whole weekend, I knew from that moment that I could not say no any longer. That what I said is, I'm going to go, and then I'll deal with the hair when I get
And
there.
you don't have
I'll
to
make a
shave
decision.
we don't make you. You don't have to shave your head. That's an option you can choose.
Yeah.
You're being called.
Yeah, I'm being called to India, so I
So
made
we're
the
very
commitment
happy
to
about
follow
that.
you to India and see what's there for me. Totally, it took me by surprise. I almost landed on the floor, but I was in tears most of the training with that.
Okay.
Which,
Well, we're
by the
delighted.
way, we may be calling some of you people who are listening to this
To join us.
this program to join us. And
Give them the dates.
the dates are March 14th to March 29th, and you can go on sandraray.com and look it over, and you can register there and find out all the information. So we welcome you
Absolutely.
to join us.
And
There's
tell
still
us,
time.
where else do you travel to and take these quests of people where you teach them?
Well, last summer we went to Glastonbury. We've done a number of trainings in Glastonbury. We feel it's a very powerful spiritual spot on the planet, and some spiritual masters have called Glastonbury the heart chakra of the planet, and it's also very near Stonehenge, which has a very powerful energy, so we go there during this quest. So we did our training in Glastonbury, and of course we go to Bali every year in December. So we just got back from that a couple months ago, and Bali is incredible. There are some other spiritually high places in Bali that we take our people to, and it's a different energy, it's a different culture, and we feel like partly when we introduce people to these ancient, very spiritual cultures, they have a transformation. So Western people going to the East, it's just that journey in itself is a transformative journey. So in addition to doing our work with the breath work, the liberation breathing, and with the philosophies of the Course in Miracles that we teach, people going to these other cultures and immersing themselves in these cultures is a very eye-opening experience. So we feel that elevates people, it brings them more joy, it brings them more clarity in their life, and it expands their mind. Because, you know, when you stay in one area and you're only in your own country, you have a much more limited view of the world. But when you start traveling abroad and going to the other side of the planet, it really opens up your eyes.
It does, even if we're doing some of the similar things, but it's a whole different flavor in these different places. And where else
going
do
to
you go?
Well, we're going to go to Budapest in July for a wet rebirthing training. So we get in these beautiful thermal springs in this gorgeous hotel, and we use a snorkel and a nose plug to do the breathing and roll up in the fetal position. Is really, really powerful. So
I did one of those in Bali.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. And sometimes we do it in Iceland in the Blue Lagoon. And so these are what we do every year, these places.
Should we say a little bit about breath work and why it's effective,
Please.
so effective in transforming people's lives?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, Sandra was one of the pioneers of breath work, and back in the day, in the early 1970s, they called it rebirthing. And that has kind of morphed into similar but a little different forms. And we still do this process of breathing called rebirthing, but we changed the name to liberation breathing. And it kind of, we feel that describes what it does. It liberates people from their limitations and their negative thoughts. And it's kind of a psychological, spiritual process. It's not therapy, it's more like spiritual purification. And it helps people get very clear internally with their mind and what's going on in their mind. Because our philosophy is that your thoughts, even your subconscious thoughts, are producing your results in life. So to know yourself is the greatest spiritual gift we can help people do. And this breath work that we do is the fastest way we've found for people to get to know who they are and what makes them tick.
And to heal yourself.
Yeah, and to let go of negative thoughts, to find the areas where you're holding unforgiveness and to release those judgments and those grievances. And through this process of breathing, it's very cathartic. It helps you let go, it helps you forgive, it helps you move on to a different place in your mind for new possibilities.
It's so funny, me being a healer in the community, and I go in and I talk about meditation to people. And, you know, meditation has really caught on over the last couple years. But I find the questions people ask me is like, why do I have to keep clearing? And being in healing for over 20 years, I'm constantly healing and constantly letting go, because we bring a sense of karma to ourselves by the actions and the thoughts and the way we speak our words. And so I got to volunteer staff with you and watch as each person was breathing, laying on the floor and being in that very trusting and vulnerable state, and the way you hold the room so high. They were able to feel safe to let things go and share with each other and hold space for each person to go through their process and then share with each other. And it was so freeing to me to watch that.
It's very sweet.
You do it so well.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
know, when one person, if you're in a group setting and we're doing a workshop with a number of people, a couple dozen people or 30 people, when someone shares, even though it's their particular life experience, we all feel connected to that experience because maybe we've gone through similar situations. So when someone in the group kind of frees their mind from some past event, everyone in the group receives that benefit and they get freed as well. So that's the beauty of doing this work in groups, is that it helps us evolve much faster to work in group settings.
Yeah, we have group settings, and of course we have private sessions, which are more powerful, where you have just one person coming to you for 2 hours. And then we also have the wet breath work, where you use your snorkel and nose plug. So all three of those are fantastic.
And could you say a little bit about how the wet breath work where you have the snorkel and you're in the water. It kind of simulates the womb situation.
Right, yeah. We found that in the warm water, it does activate memories of the womb, especially if you roll up in the fetal position. And people don't realize it. They make very sophisticated decisions in the womb
amazing.
before they can talk. And they're astonished to find these thoughts, because some of these thoughts are really hanging them up, and they didn't even know they had these thoughts formed in the womb. So it's very revealing and very powerful.
I've noticed in the I've been in 5 groups now, that there's always things coming up that people have no clue that are
Right.
even so deep inside their
Right.
psyche that run them on a daily basis.
Right.
Well, real quickly, we only have a few minutes left. What is it like to travel together and be together 24/7
well,
as this husband and wife dynamic duo?
For me, it's heaven. I love it, and I enjoy every second of it. I feel like it keeps me in constant joy, and we really have a problem-free relationship. We made a commitment to be conflict-free, and we've learned to do that. And of course, we teach other people how to do that in the Loving Relationships training. You know? So I think that we can set an example for people in that area, and we just have fun. You know, and we are very fortunate. We get to meet so many wonderful people all over the world, and well, we love being home together too. So we are on the road a lot.
Yeah.
And we're kind of used to it now. It's kind of I'm kind of wired for that.
Yeah, and nobody can keep up with you. You run circles around me.
Well, I'd like to say something about that. You know, I think people need to ask themselves, what's their purpose for being here? You know, why are you here on this planet, and what is the purpose of your life? And you know, for Sandra and I to be together, it's our greatest joy. And if we can live in harmony as a couple and work together and have a mission together, a spiritual mission together, it sets an example for others. And we share a lot of these principles about forgiveness and releasing old patterns of the past. And this is like our passion. So Sandra's been doing it since 1974.
Right.
And she was actually one of
Amazing.
my first spiritual teachers in the 1980s.
Wow.
And you know, I went on to study the Course in Miracles for 17 years with this man Tara Singh, and he was like very big in my life, very important in my life. And then when that came to an end and he passed away, lo and behold, Sandra Ray was back in my life, and I saw we had kind of a spiritual mission together, and we got together, and it's just been wonderful. We've been together for 10 years now,
Incredible.
traveling around the world, and I think I've been around the world something like 11 times. So
What a
it's
journey.
just been a wonderful journey, and like she said, we meet wonderful people everywhere, and we reach out, we help some people. I'm sometimes not so sure how much we help them, but you know, when people write back to us, they said, oh, I read your book 20 years ago and it changed my life, or I did your workshop in Estonia last summer and now I have a relationship. You know, so those are the moments we wait for, that we see that our work really is making an impact. So that's
And
why
how
we
you've
love to
made
do
an
it.
impact on me, we're going to wrap it up in just a minute, is since I met you, my friend Teresa said that I had to get on the Las Vegas Woman magazine cover, and I wrote an article in here about how I changed my career from real estate to full-time healing. And that's really why being in a magazine was important for me. I haven't authored any books yet. I know there's at least 1 or 2 that need to come out. But to put spiritual principles out there to the world, there's something in order to do it in a big way and have a platform. That's why I interview healers, and why I was one of the people that created One World Healing with the Las Vegas community, and I'm a contributing writer now for Las Vegas Woman. If I can find, this was last issue.
Okay.
Beautiful Betty Ann Golden on the front. And I wrote my first article about One World Healing from the October 1 shooting, wanting Las Vegas to come together in that same way and not forget how important it is for us as a culture, as a human race, to stick together and always remember to be kind to others, which is what impressed me so much. So I will be writing another article. I'm in the process of doing another one, and
Good.
just sharing spirituality to the world, which you so lovingly and beautifully do for us and so many others. If you haven't heard of Sandra Ray, get to sandraray.com and also marcusray.com. They are a force to be reckoned with. They're unstoppable, and let them take you with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There it is.
There it
Perfect.
is. It
That
ended